Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ravecal. This is Super Castlevania, or Castlevania 4. We are literally picking up right where we left off, like I paused my game, ended the video, and started this one. I'm trying to break up some of these videos into smaller sections to make them more digestible, especially for these type of games. I feel like they're the good place to do that. So, if you're just joining, Castlevania, this is a remake of the original Castlevania. So story-wise, since I was talking a lot about the story in the first Castlevania video I did, story-wise, this game is probably the most well-known of the Castlevania stories. It involves Simon Belmont as the Belmont of note. It is probably, I mean, it's pretty straightforward as far as it all goes. You know, Dracula, I believe in this particular case, kidnaps somebody, girlfriend, wife, something, or just needs to be put down again. It's not the most complex of the stories. I'm really not sure why Simon is such a poster boy, besides the fact that he's shown up on some other media. Like, Simon's really dull as far as the Belmonts go. He did get the first two games. But, like, the characters from 3 and the characters from Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night are easily the most interesting of the main characters. So yeah, this is basically the beginning of Simon. He's gonna go fight Dracula. Pretty straightforward. I think this one takes place in, I want to say, 1500s, something like that. That bridge does collapse behind you. Those guys are like really annoying to kill, I remember. Yeah, this is, I think, 3 generations after Castlevania 3. Simon is actually I believe he's the grandson of, that's Trevor, right? And, Sita, who's the mage. Yeah, Trevor. Because Richter's in Symphony of the Night. So, this is after the Belmonts start getting a little bit of magic blood. Have some allies, not that they appear here, even in story. And I think that's what makes Simon so, both why they use him probably, and also why he's so boring. Because he is, okay. Oh my gosh. Well, let's see how this works. Apparently it doesn't. Okay. But yeah, no, basically Simon's boring, is where I was going with that. Simon's kind of this dark loner character, though. Like, he's the, he's kind of the diehard protagonist, or the 80s action hero kind of protagonist. He's just the fierce loner who's gonna get it done. And, like, again, that's part of what makes him interesting. It's also part of what makes him boring, because he doesn't have a supporting cast, and he needs it. So fishmen are one of the other really annoying enemies, along with birds and bats, and generally things that fly or swim in these games are really annoying. Okay, let's be fair. Enemies in these games are generally really annoying, but especially if they fly or swim. Or throw projectiles, or... Okay. Okay. So yeah, the reason I chose this game is because it's kind of a placeholder for the original game that is much more playable, and it's a point in the story, or in the, not the story, the gameplay, that I don't feel like really got replicated at all, which is kind of weird to think about. You know, the Super Nintendo game is the one that they never really did the same thing with again. There's a few other games where they do, there's very few other games where they do the directional whips. There's very few other games where they do, I don't think they ever do this thing again, which, I mean, it looks kind of weird, so I kind of get that. And I'm sure it wasn't pleasant to program some of the weird whip physics. It's like a three-headed Hydra thing. But yeah, like, after this point, they kind of went into either mimicking the original Castlevania again, with games like Rondo and Bloodlines, or they went more with what will be coming up in a little bit, which is once we get to PlayStation era, the model becomes Symphony of the Night. So this is kind of a weird little relic in the middle, and honestly, it's probably my favorite of the, among my favorite of the 2D Castlevania games. I think it is kind of, it's, the NES era Castlevania games get this rap as being these, you know, super hard platformers, which they are. But the main reason that they are so hard is because of their controls. I mean, they have very, very stiff controls, which I will totally blame for being part of why I failed so hard playing 3. And there are just hard games in general. Symphony of the Night gets held up as this, you know, ideal game, which, quite frankly, it's one of the best games ever made. It genuinely deserves that title. And basically, because they kind of... Crap! I swear you can jump on those if you jump off right away. Okay, whatever. We'll figure it out. There we go. Just wasn't doing it fast enough. Short window. But yeah, no, the games after this kind of fall more under the camp of Symphony of the Night, in general. It's not a hard and fast rule, but in general. Symphony of the Night has the non-Belmont protagonist, with the large Metroidvania-style maps. There's a few other ones, but the ones that we get after this are not very good, as far as the Belmont platformers. Again, Bloodlines. We can just continue? We can just continue. Okay. Then I won't worry about it. We get Bloodlines, which is the Sega game, which... people at this point have probably started figuring out how I feel about Sega. Honestly, Bloodlines is a decent game, but it makes no sense as far as some of the choices they made. I really don't care for them. Especially in regards to the characters that they used and the time frame that they took. Like, I think that one's early... I want to say that one is the time slot for early 20th century. And it features a character named Eric Lecard. And when I first saw that, I was like, oh, cool! Maybe that's Alucard, and actually going and looking at it... Oh my gosh, that's the same thing I did last time. But actually going and looking at it, it's totally not, and it's just a dude. And it's like, oh, well, why does this guy exist? Also, the main thing for me is taking that weird time slot at the turn of the century would have actually been really cool to do more of the Symphony of the Night style game where you can do different weapons, and I would have actually been very interested in seeing a like an actual like full-on shooter, Castlevania shooter, except with like a musket or something. Like, that would be a really weird, neat thing to me. Whoa, that's funky. I don't remember this guy. And he just wrecked me. And I think I start back here again. Well, at least we know what my threshold is. I can usually do a few levels in Castlevania before I start suffering. Also, I'm very glad that I split the videos, because now I don't know how long this one's gonna take. Go with the axe, because I think that's actually better for fighting this guy. I wish I had a boomerang. Actually, I wish I had a boomerang with a triple multiplier. So just to be clear, that jump is not forgiving. Jumping off those platforms at all is very short window. And oh my gosh, I was not on that. So yeah, like I was saying, I think it would be cool to put a character who actually had like a gun, at least as a sub-weapon. Do like a pistol and like a pistol with his whip, like a musketeer style thing going. I don't know. Instead they did this weird, like, it's just a regular game and there's a few skeletons with guns, I believe. Hey, you can hit the things that are above you. No orb? But... oh my. Okay, apparently there's no orb. This better at least be wall meat. Nope. We're doomed. Okay, so if you're not aware, Super Nintendo had this neat technology called Mode 7, where it would just kind of rotate or transform the specific, like the entire background pixels. Yeah. Okay, let's see where we start. That's what I thought. Okay, so we're doing one area per map from here on. Just to be clear. Or one stage per map from here. Or per video from here, whatever. At least I have a strategy for that boss now. I'm not really sure how they chose to divide up some of this, as far as the stage goes, because having this as another checkpoint but not having one like at the bosses seems odd. Like that first section was pretty short. But you don't get one after this screen, and you don't get one after the next screen leading into the boss. Like, even if it just was after this screen instead of the first one, would make way more sense to me from a design perspective. Okay. Let's see if I can do this without being dumb this time. There we go. Not perfect, but it works. Whoops. Apparently, if you jump too high there, you die. Good to know. Now I know. I was looking for wall meat. Also, now I get to do this next whole section, unless there's candles coming up soon, with no item and the leather whip. And apparently that was not the right way to go! Really? Well, at least I'm in 4-2 now. Hopefully, continues will start here. And hopefully there's not a limit on continues. Okay, so it looks like this is actually the way you're supposed to... Wait, what? Okay, this is not very clear. I think this is actually a survival section where I just need to not die until the room rotates again, which is kind of crappy. Well, at least I was right. Good to know that those first few deaths were just because the game design wasn't giving me a very clear direction. This is actually a point in the game where I have not played it as much, if that wasn't obvious. I just about jumped into that hole. Okay. Again, Mode 7 is neat. This is probably not the best use of it, but it is a kind of a cool little level. Hopefully you don't get motion sick, and hopefully it stops lagging. So that's the first meat that I found in in 4, past the first stairway. So I would have been in trouble with the, fact that the mid-boss was, in 4-1. I also don't have a single weapon still. This looks pleasant. I do not remember this section very well, like, at all. When I was a kid, I did play this game as a kid, but I did a lot of either play the beginning of the game, so the first 3 or so levels, or play, do a Game Genie code or a password to get towards the end of the game. That is probably made of instant death. We're gonna take this very slow. Is that the same thing every time? Yep. Better than nothing? Barely. Actually, out of all the games, this is probably one of the better ones for the axe. Because there is a lot of vertical movement. That was totally at least partially a case of me just wanting to use the axe. And there's another boss here. There's another boss here. This treasure bat. This is the golem. Okay. So this guy actually reminds me a lot of a boss from Wizards and Warriors, which is not on my list, and I don't know why. Crap. Oh my gosh. I hit him. You saw me hit him. Oh my gosh. Okay. Last life. No pressure, just a huge room full of instant death spikes. bunch of likely crushing floors. I don't think this is the same way I went last time, and I don't know if that's a good thing. That's not a good thing. Okay, let's see if it starts me back. Okay. Well, I think that's about enough for that video. My goal is to show you the game, and I've shown you all but the last hit of this boss, of this stage. So this game has a password system. We're gonna go ahead and start with 5 next time. I've already played through this beginning part enough times. If you're enjoying my suffering, give me a like and subscribe. Check out the other content on my channel. There's only a couple other Castlevania games up there right now. I am planning on doing a larger series as we go. But there are a lot of other Castlevania-ish games, a lot of hard platformers. So if you do enjoy this, check out like DuckTales or Cuphead or Shovel Knight, and you might enjoy those as well. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments. And as always, have a good one.